We know from experience that grief can be really exhausting. What are some ways that it can affect your sleep?
Difficulty staying asleep when you are asleep, and or maybe waking up in the night or very early in the morning. Having sleep trouble while you're grieving is kind of part of the normal process of the healing that's going on and the processing of what's going on. Rather than form a habit of being frustrated with being awake in the night, to maybe get up and go with it.
Can it help people if they're talking about their grief more in the day? Can that actually help their sleep? Welcome to the Life and Loss podcast. Today we're focusing on a topic that affects many in their grief journey: how grief can impact your sleep. I'm joined by Ben, a counsellor based at Forest Holme Hospice, who works closely with those navigating the emotional and physical challenges of grief. Welcome, Ben.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining me. We know from experience that grief can be really exhausting. What are some ways that it can affect your sleep?
Yeah, so I hear from people talking about how it can affect sleep in terms of not having enough sleep, so difficulty getting to sleep, difficulty staying asleep when you are asleep, and or maybe waking up in the night or very early in the morning. I also hear from people who are sleeping a lot more, who are very, very tired, maybe wanting to sleep during the day, maybe sleeping 12 hours at night and still waking up tired. And I also hear about people who are having issues with sleep quality, so dreams that are so vivid, they're waking up kind of not rested, or also waking up from maybe disturbing dreams that have set the tone for the day, or waking from a soothing dream and then being disappointed with the reality.
Why do you think grief affects sleep, and why is it often worse at night time?
So why does it? I guess there are various mechanisms how grief can affect sleep. I mean, one thing in a very, very kind of practical way, especially in early days, you can have a lot to do. So maybe a funeral to arrange and affairs to organise, and I guess that can make it really hard to switch off at the end of the day. There's something around the amount of adjustment that you have to make after grief, just how much your life has changed, and that can be really tiring. It makes it harder to do life on autopilot, because things have changed so much. You've got to think about things, and it makes your brain use more sugar, and get tired maybe earlier in the day. So that can affect your kind of like routine of tiredness throughout the day. There's the emotional side of it, the emotional intensity. You might find yourself kind of navigating really intense feelings, and having to regulate your behaviour with really intense feelings. So kind of maybe feeling like furiously angry in the supermarket and having to kind of control that, or bursting into tears in front of people you wouldn't normally cry with. And I guess that can regulating that and dealing with that our emotional regulation often happens while we're asleep in our dreams, and in wakefulness in the night as well, and so that kind of part of us can get overwhelmed. Something else that's important to mention, which comes in kind of hand in hand with grief, is trauma. So with your experience of losing the person who's died, you might have experienced powerlessness and helplessness and unbearable experiences that are really hard to turn from like a raw experience into a bad memory, and the whole mechanism of that also happens in our sleep and in our dreams, and that can affect us too.
And you've mentioned, obviously, in the early days of grief, when you've got all the practical bits to do, that can affect your sleep in that way. How about the other stages of grief, sort of as you go through your grief journey?
So I guess different stages of grief. I guess things can affect us at different times, and I guess it depends on our experience beforehand, how we deal with different things at different times. And I guess there is something perhaps a little bit brutal about grief, is that you might be experiencing lots of these things all at once, and sometimes they can work against each other, and that I guess that can make it difficult. But yes, different things can happen at different times, but I guess notice and name things as they happen. Yeah.
And what would you sort of expect as normal grief-related sleep disruption, and when does it tip over to being a bit more of a problem?
So it's really hard to say what's normal. Everyone's experience is unique, but I guess the first 3 months can be particularly intense, and beyond that, kind of be looking at how things change after that. But it is very hard to say what's normal. It is a very unique experience.
Yeah. I hope that you're finding this episode useful. Perhaps you have a question that you'd like to ask. You can do this by commenting below. Your input shapes the conversations we have and the topics that we explore. So don't hesitate to reach out and let us know what you'd like to hear more of.
Yeah.
And earlier you briefly mentioned nightmares and sort of flashbacks. Is that something that can happen after a loved one's died?
Yeah. So nightmares and dreams, and flashbacks, certainly my own experience of grief. Some dreams were quite frightening at first, and some dreams became quite soothing. And I've heard that from various people, a change in the quality of dreams. So I've heard from people where dreams have initially been quite frightening, and then have changed, and so noticing and naming that has been very helpful. Yeah.
And can a lack of sleep make the grieving process in general harder if you're struggling to function in the day, for example?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It can do, and I guess, but acknowledging that that's the case can be helpful. I guess, and yeah.
I suppose it could trigger into other mental health conditions if it's a long term.
There is a link between it's hard to point the finger in terms of what causes what.
Yeah.
But certainly depression and anxiety can both be associated with sleep issues. And so I guess but worrying about what's causing what isn't as important as just if you are having sleep issues, and especially I guess in the sort of if you're looking at kind of 9 months, 12 months after your loss, then noticing it. If things aren't improving, then that might be the time to seek some help. Yeah.
And for anyone who is listening today, struggling with their grief, what practical things can they do to improve their sleep?
Yeah. Okay. So all right. So first of all, I'd say be kind to yourself about it. So having sleep trouble while you're grieving is kind of part of the normal process of the healing that's going on, and the processing of what's going on. So be kind to yourself. Don't be punitive about it. And notice and name things that are going on. There's all the tips around sleep hygiene. So making sure that that your bed is for your bedroom is for sleep, and so avoiding blue screens and avoiding food within a couple of hours going to bed. Avoiding alcohol before bed. Alcohol might help you get to sleep, but you might well find yourself waking in the night.
Okay.
Some other advice around kind of eating things. Someone's advised oat cookies in the night as something that apparently the carbs in that kind of can make you sleepy.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's not chocolate hobnobs. It's like the savoury oat cookies.
Yeah.
But also, if you do find yourself awake in the night, advice there is to rather than form a habit of being frustrated with being awake in the night, to maybe get up and go with it. Someone suggested watching a soothing DVD box set, and their advice around the box set was that it's not just revealing kind of age there. It's the box set is kind of there's not going to be adverts in that, because sometimes the targeted adverts could be a distraction. I guess. Also, speaking to your GP, if there's a habit of sleep difficulty that's been formed, speaking to the GP about temporarily using medication to break a habit could be helpful as well.
Yeah. Can it help people if they're talking about their grief more in the day? Can that actually help their sleep?
Yes. A kind of rule of thumb is what you avoid during the day might well come back to you in your dreams or in your wakefulness in the night. So so if you've got someone to talk to who's going to listen, then yes. But also even by yourself, just kind of being honest with yourself and noticing and naming what's going on can also be really helpful too.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ben, for today, and thank you for listening to the Life and Loss podcast. If you'd like more information on our work, you can visit our website, which is forestholmehospice.org.uk. Thank you. Please remember to like, comment and share this episode to help us reach more people. At Forest Holme Hospice Charity, we offer this podcast and many other resources to support people through life's most difficult times. If our work has made a difference to you, please consider making a donation by visiting the link in the description. Thank you.